Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. It is a beautiful day today in Sulika. The sun is out. Still a bit cold, but spring is around the corner. So just hang in there. Again, this is PLAR History and Geography, where we will be exploring again history, Canadian history topics, the first half of this course. And then we'll switch gears and look at human geography and physical geography topics in the second half of this course. Again, my name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. And again, if you have any questions in regard to this course, PLAR History and Geography, please let me know. Today is March 3rd. It is Thursday. We're at the end of week 4. So we're just almost halfway throughout this course. We're almost at the halfway point. We're almost done the history half, which means that probably by the end of next week, or maybe after March break, shortly we'll be starting the geography half. Okay, so we're almost done looking at history. Just keep that in mind. This is 2 subjects, 2 academic discipline put in to get into one course. Okay, we'll be looking at history and geography topics together. Again, feel free to listen on the radio or call it a WASA studio if you want to participate. Again, I would love to hear students if you have any questions. That way we can engage. That way it will enhance your learning as well. Again, like always, feel free to get in touch with me, your teacher, if you have any questions or any difficulties in regards to your assignments or any of the materials that we will be exploring or covering throughout this course. Again, feel free to stop by my office here at Wausau on Front Street in Sulika. Pop in and say hi. Again, feel free to give me a call. When you do give me a call and I don't pick up the phone, just leave a message. Okay, feel free to leave a message either on my phone at my office or on my cell. Again, feel free to send me an email. I'm always on my email, so feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. Again, social media, Facebook. Okay, again, I can post your marks, give you feedback, and we can communicate back and forth through Facebook as well, because I'm pretty sure I know everyone out there has Facebook nowadays. Again, please continue to work on those assignments. Okay, chip away at them, work away at them. Again, you do need your textbook, even though you're listening and participating here in class live on air. Please make sure you go back and at least skim through and read the textbook because it does provide key information that I will be talking about as well. Again, you need your workbook. Okay, you should have your workbook. Your workbook contains all your assignments, assignments 1 to 8 for history, and assignment 9 to 16 for geography. Please double check with me or your DC on regards to if you need both sections or just one section. Okay, some students may just only need their history credit, hence you only need the first half of this course. Okay, and then once those are all done, you can write your tests or your exam. Okay, or you need both sections, or if you just need the geography half. Okay, again, feel free to log on to the Bridget software. That way you can see my slides and my notes in regards to the Smartboard program. And if you don't have internet access in your community, just let me know or somehow get in touch with me, okay, or talk to your DC, and I'll be more than glad to send you a USB stick with all my lessons, videos for free, okay, for free, okay. If you need it, just let me know. I will pop it on a USB stick and I'll ship it on the express and it will get to you. That way you can pop it on your computer or laptop. You can see and still have the same access that everyone else will. Okay. Again, I hope everyone will be joining me today in class. Again, I expect everyone to attend every class, but again, I do understand people work and do have family and other priorities to take care of, which is okay as well. Okay. Other than that, just all quick reminders, all those informations are in your course syllabus or course guideline. Nothing has changed and nothing will be changing. Okay? So, if there's no questions or any comments, let's dive right into it. And today, by the end of today's class, we will be finishing, yes, we will be finishing and wrapping up lesson number 2. Lesson number 2. Again, just a reminder, there are 5 lessons all together throughout this course. Lesson 1 to lesson 3 for history, and lesson number 4 to lesson number 5 for geography. So we're almost there. We're almost there. So we'll be wrapping up lesson number 2 today. We'll probably have time to start the first chunk of lesson number 3 and that topic because this lesson is pretty short, so it won't take us much time to finish today. Okay, so today's class we'll be looking at after World War II. So just a reminder, World War II ended in 1945, and we'll be talking about defense organizations. So mainly our main goal for today's class is that we'll be looking at the decade of the 1950s. Okay, we're in the 1950s now. Okay, so when we look at what happened after World War II, we know how it started, how it finished, and all those key events that Canada play a role um, here in Canada and internationally as well. So we'll be looking at what happened around the world and here in Canada after World War II, and we'll be talking about some defense organizations that established and emerged in the 1950s. So that's our topic for today. And before we get into it, let's look at our learning goals. So I'll write this down for everyone. Learning goals. Your learning goals or your learning expectation for today's class or your learning objectives. Okay? So again, we're looking at 1950s, so keep that in mind in terms of our timeline and how we're progressing. So we're looking at the 1950s. Again, we started looking at Canada in the early 1900s in the early 20th century, but now we're moving along progressing nicely and we're looking at the time of the 1950s. 1950s. Again, like I mentioned, we'll be looking at the aftermath of the Second World War. So what took place after that? We'll be looking at equality, how during this time period our goal was equality, how everyone wanted to be equal to one another. Oh no, my pen died again. Okay, equality. And we'll be looking at defense. 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 Okay. Those are our learning goals today. I noticed that we got Fort Hope calling in and listening as well, which is great. Can anyone hear me in Fort Hope? Is Sophie on the line? Oh, someone's there. I hear someone.
Hello, this is
Hi.
Sophie.
Hi, Sophie. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I tried going to the office earlier, but there's nobody there again, so
Like this morning
calling
at your
from
learning
home.
center?
Yeah, I'm calling from home today.
Oh, okay, that's great. That works too. I don't know where your DC may be, but that's okay. At least you're taking the initiative and the responsibility of calling in and still listening, which is great. So good on you for doing that. Well done. Okay. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I didn't receive any email in regards to what's happening in Fort Hope. I believe your voice should be back in Fort Hope right now. So I don't know about that. But again, uh, great job on taking the responsibility and the initiative of still doing what you can in regards to coming to class, which is great. Okay, so you probably can't see my slide, is that correct? Or can you see my
Yeah.
notes? Are you
No,
on
I
a...
can't see it. No, so I'm trying to log into the internet here.
Okay. Yeah, if you have a laptop or a computer on you right now, feel free to download that Bridget software the same way you would at your Learning Center. Log on, go through the same step and process, and you should be able to see my slides and my notes. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so try that. If that doesn't work, not a problem. I will post a YouTube link on my Facebook page. I will send you that link as well. That way you can go back and review my notes and my slides and my pictures and all that fun stuff that I'm posting afterwards as well. So you won't be lost. You're still here. You can still listen. You can still follow along in your textbook as well. Okay?
Okay.
Good
All
stuff.
right.
So
Sounds
again,
good.
class, our learning goals today, we're in the 1950 period. We're looking at the aftermath of World War II. We're looking at equality. Ooh, big change in terms of equality. And in terms of defense organization, we'll be looking at defense. Okay? So let's look quickly at what happened after World War II. This is not in your textbook, but I'm just gonna provide the class some additional information about what is happening around the world that kind of impacts Canada as well after World War II and in the midst of the 1950s. Okay, this period can be classified or known as the Cold War period. Okay, the Cold War period. Not World War III, that didn't happen, but the Cold War. Okay, Cold War period. So we know that the conclusion of World War II, Germany again was defeated by the Allies. Britain, Canada, United States, France. But the Allies defeated Germany and the Nazi Party and Hitler. Okay, so during this time period, we have two superpower nations that emerge. Okay, when I talk about superpower nations, countries that have lots of resources, wealth, good economy during this time period. And those two nations that we're talking about are the United States and the Soviet Union, otherwise known as the USSR, otherwise known as modern day Russia. Okay, Russia was not known at this time period. They're classified as still under the regime of the Soviet Union, under the Communist Party. Okay, so these two countries, the Soviet Union and the United States, are the two main superpower countries that emerge after World War II, hence why we're in the Cold War period. So I noticed that you log on to the Bridges software, Sophie, is that correct? Can you see my slide now?
No, I can't say nothing right now. I'm just trying to log in right now.
You're
It seems
trying to
like
log
it's
in
a
right now?
login.
Okay. Hopefully you can,
Yeah,
because
I
I
think
do
it's
notice
just
that Fort Hope is logged on and participating on the Bridget software. So I'm not sure if that's you or if that's someone else in Fort Hope. So, but keep trying. If you can't, not a big deal. Still listen, still follow along, still take notes, still highlight underlying key facts in your textbook that I'll be going over, and then we'll be going over questions on assignment 6 afterwards as well. Okay?
okay. There's another question. Whereabouts are you guys on assignment 6?
Yes, so we're looking at um
Okay.
what I'm going to talk about in terms of this lesson right at the moment, we'll be talking about questions or in regards to assignment number 6. So if you go through your textbook, I'm not sure which page, I don't have my textbook on me, but it's like after the World War II period.
Okay.
So lesson number 2, it should be near the end of lesson number 2.
All right.
Okay, where you see the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights and talk about NATO and NORAD. That's where we're at right now. Okay,
Okay. All right. Thanks.
no problem. So again, United States and the Soviet Union, two superpower. Um, the Soviet Union or the USSR, they were under this ideology of communism. This huge main popular ideology of communism expanded into Eastern Europe. What is communism? Well, first of all, it's a political ideology. It's a political ideology based on economic equality through the elimination of private property. Sounds great, right? However, again, it's an economic and social system in terms of the government that's running it. Um, what this ideology of economic equality through elimination of private property, what that means is that all property in the country and the resources are owned by the state, owned by the country, okay, not by the individual, okay. So, for example, a company or a factory, that company or factory is owned by the state, owned by the country, owned by the government, not by the individual. Okay, again, sounds great, right? Everyone common ownership of all land. So no one owns anything in terms of this political ideology. If you live in a communist society, no one has ownership over anything. It's based on common equal ownership where everyone's supposed to have equal wealth. And the state and the government owns everything. It's based on the means of production. Okay, that's key. The means of production based on control by the state. Okay, again, that all sounds great, right? Equality in terms of everyone. However, it didn't really last. So in terms of the Cold War period, the United States, they were under a capitalist ideology. Okay, capitalist. Okay, so basically the Cold War was a fight between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was not actually, it did not involve any, battles or tanks or any warfare of people fighting. It was known as the Cold War period as no one really fought. People were ready to fight, but nothing really emerged. So it was a period of capitalism versus communism. So what is capitalism? Well, it's pretty much the opposite in a way of communism, where private business and factories are owned by the people in terms of the means and production. The state doesn't own it, but the individual owns it. Okay? So the problem with communism is that the working class and the poor individual are always working. They're always working. Because in terms of the communist society, it revolves around the means of production. They need people to work in terms of acquiring resources and wealth so that society can function. The problem is that the poor and working class outnumbers the state and the upper class individual. So eventually a revolution, an uprising will occur, which it did, and the poor and that big mass of people stop working, which means that the means of production stopped, hence why it led to the fall of communism. Okay, that is the problem. So, the United States during this time period had fear of the Soviet Union would take over the world. They had fear that communism would spread across the world from this ideology. So there was a development of atomic weapons. So Soviet Union started to develop mass weapons, atomic weapons, deadly armed races. Okay, United States did the same too. So basically, it was a battle between who could create the most weapons or who could create the most deadly weapons in terms of nuclear weapon warheads during this time period. Everyone had fear in the 1950s. Everyone had fear, even in Canada. We had fear that at any point a nuclear bomb can be set off from the United States or from the Soviet Union. So people started to prepare. People here in Canada, for example, built bomb shelter in the backyard, and they even practiced bomb shelter drills in schools as well. So again, fear in the Canadian public. Again, no one knows what could happen. Again, it was a fight between capitalism and communism, United States, the Soviet Union, and all these fear and all these tension that can erupt at any point, even expand into space, which we'll be talking about in a moment, even expand to space in terms of satellite technology. So again, this is a period of fear of two superpower can eventually erupt a bomb or a nuclear warhead at any point. So preparation took place. So back here in Canada, we just witnessed the ending of the Second World War. Something needed to be done. Something needed to be done. Canada and Canadians witnessed the horror against the Jews in Europe. Okay, again, when I'm talking about the horror against the Jews in Europe, we're talking about the Holocaust. Okay, we'll talk about the Holocaust. Canada started to change laws. Okay, so this lesson in today's class, we're mainly talking about political stance. Okay, here in Canada, we started to change laws so that we can protect human rights. We just witnessed the Holocaust that took place in Europe against the Jews. So we want that to never ever happen again. Okay, we don't want to witness the Holocaust or any of that aftermath for that matter. So we start to change laws, to start taking a step forward to protect human rights as citizens, individual, and as people. Something needs to be done. So what happened was that in 1958 here in Canada, our prime minister during this time period was John Diefenbaker. John Diefenbaker, he created something known as the Bill of Rights. Okay, the Bill of Rights. Again, there will be a question about the Bill of Rights and Charter very, very shortly. Okay, the Bill of Rights in 1958 again was created, adopted by our Prime Minister Diefenbaker. What was the Bill of Rights? Well, it was simply a political law that changed the way we view human rights. Again, it was simply just a law, but the Bill of Rights did not have any more power than any other laws. Okay, there is no provisions on official languages. The Bill of Rights was not a part of the Constitution. Basically, the Bill of Rights, this law that was created, was simply a law that spoke upon equality. Okay, equality. Okay, it was the first step in terms of equality. Okay, it talked upon the fundamentals of freedom in terms of what you can say, what you can speak, what you can write to a certain extent. It spoke upon legal rights as an individual. For example, what you can do or what you cannot do as citizens, or when you get arrested, what your legal rights are. And it may basically talk about equality before the law. Okay, equality. Everyone being equal, not discriminated at all. This was the first step in terms of changing the way we view society that impacts us nowadays. However, even though the Bill of Rights sounds great, again, like I said, it was simply just a law. Okay, it had no more power than any other law. If a law were discriminatory, the Bill of Rights was not helpful. Nothing can be done. Okay, and again, the Bill of Rights only applies to federal law, not provincial law. Okay, however, the step that was created by Diefenbaker was a step forward in the 1958. Okay, again, the Bill of Rights again talk about fundamental freedoms, legal rights, and equality before the law. This was the Bill of Rights. However, because of the Bill of Rights, because of that stepping stone that was created, it led to something more powerful that impact us nowadays. Okay, eventually the Bill of Rights turned into something that we know nowadays as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which I will refer to as the Charter. The Charter. This was created later on in the 1980s, more specifically in 1982. Okay, so basically, whatever the Bill of Rights talked about, It was the same thing in terms of the charter, but the charter evolved and had more impact and had more distinct on impact of Canadians. Okay, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was entrenched into Canadian Constitution, which is really significant. Okay, it is basically the supreme law of Canada. Nothing was above the Charter in terms of laws. Okay, basically with the Charter in place, it allows us, Canada, to make rules and changes without British permission from Britain. So at this point, since the Charter was entrenched into the Canadian Constitution, we had full control of what we can do as a country. There was no more limitations or provisions on what we can do as a country. And again, reminder, Canada was a colony of the British Empire, but with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms entrenched in the Canadian Constitution, we now have complete control over what we can do as a country. The Charter protects legal rights against Canadian citizens, which is key because back in the day, prior to Confederation and post-Confederation, there was lots of discrimination, lots of racism, lots of hate, lots of unfair treatment that was going on between minority groups, Aboriginal, and people of different race. Okay. However, with the charter in place, it changes everything. It improves Canadian citizens' ability to participate in society, as now everyone is equal. Okay, and I mean everyone. I mean everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a male, a female, people of different religion, different race. Okay, um, mental disability. I'm gonna talk about everyone. Everyone's now equal before the law. Okay, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms apply to everyone. Okay, no one is above the law. All this applies to everyone here in Canada, as long as you're a Canadian citizen. Okay, again, now you have the right to vote. Now you have the right to move around the country. You have democratic rights, legal rights, fundamental rights. Okay, all this now applies to everyone. Very, very key and very significant. Okay, this is just a little illustration of Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and the Queen Elizabeth II signing off on the entrenching the charter into the Constitution. Very key point in Canadian history. Again, now that Canada has complete control over what we can do. Something that I want to point out that's very significant in terms of the charter is Section 35 of the charter. Section 35 of the charter. Okay, the charter is a long list of documents. Okay, it goes through different sections and subsections. Again, it outlines fundamental rights, legal rights, official languages of Canada, and etc. Okay, there are just tons. Okay, you now have the freedom to speak, rights, freedom of which religion you want to follow, freedom of which whatever. Okay, all that is now outlined in the charter. But however, I want to point everyone's attention to Section 35 of the charter. Okay, this section is very significant because it is the first time ever, and I mean ever, that it recognized Aboriginal population legal rights. This is the first time. Prior to this, it wasn't established. So for example, I want to read out Section 35, subsection 1, and I quote, "The existing Aboriginal and treaty rights of Aboriginal peoples of Canada are hereby recognized and affirmed." Definition of Aboriginal people of Canada. Section 35 and subsection 2. In this act of the Charter, Aboriginal people of Canada includes Indian, Inuit, Métis peoples of Canada, and end quote. Okay, basically what I just read, it recognized Aboriginal people as people. Again, all these laws of equality and non-discrimination, now applies to everyone, even First Nation people. This is the first time ever in Canada, in terms of our laws, that are recognize Aboriginal people and as equal people compared to other Canadian citizens as well. Okay. Later on in the 70s and in the 80s, there was strong Aboriginal voice, first time recognized as Aboriginal identity people and have constitutional protection. This is the first time. Okay. Again, equality. Everyone's now equal. No one's now discriminated based on gender, age, heights, um, status, etc. Okay, everyone's now equal. Yeah, everyone's equal. Okay, that's why knowing your rights, your fundamental charter of rights and freedom is critical because you can use it because it applies to everyone. All right, let's move on and look at startup defenses. Okay, defenses or defense organizations. Again, there will be a question about this topic of the United Nations. United Nations, otherwise known as the UN. Okay, the UN. The UN or the United Nations was created by Britain, United States, China, United Soviet Socialist Republic. Okay, it was an expansion of the League of Nations. Okay, if you go back to World War One and the conclusion of World War One, a group of organizations called the League of Nations established. However, basically, the United Nations is the evolve of the League of Nations. So, basically, the League of Nations was not successful. And because of that, boom, we have something called the UN, United Nations. Okay, what was the goal of the UN? Well, it had the same goal as the League of Nations. Same goals. The goal was to prevent future war from happening. Okay, we witnessed World War One, we witnessed World War Two. We do not want to see World War Three emerge from the Cold War. Hence why the United Nations as a group was established. Again, its goals was to prevent future wars, improve quality of life, protect human rights across the world. Okay, human rights, equality, protecting individual as a citizen and as an individual was a key during this time period. Here in Canada, we made changes in terms of political laws, and we want to see and promote these changes around the world as well. Not just here in Canada, but around the world. Canada is a part of the UN. Okay, we're mainly recognized as our key role in terms of peacekeeping. Okay, we go to different nations nowadays and promote peace. Again, we try to prevent future wars from through negotiation, through talk. We want to improve quality of life, and we want to protect human rights. Okay, so there's something that we can be really proud of as Canadians is our role as peacekeepers. Peacekeeping. Okay, so the UN, prevent future wars, improve quality of life, human rights, and Canada's role as peacekeeping. That is the UN, United Nations. Continuing looking at defense organization, or some defense, I like to call it, we're going to switch gears and look at NATO. Okay, this is in your textbook. Okay, NATO, capital N, capital A, capital T, capital O, NATO. Okay, NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Okay, so make sure you know what NATO is and what it stands for. Again, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This defense organization was established in 1949. 1949. What was NATO? Well, basically, it was an organization where countries got together and formed it. Again, not an alliance. that you can say. So, for example, a country a part of NATO. So, for example, if the United States, who is a part of NATO, or any other European countries who are under the treaty are under attack, others will come and aid. Basically, it's like a defense organization. Whoever is a part of NATO, in terms of countries, if something ever happened to a country in NATO, other countries in NATO will come and support and aid. Okay? So that is NATO. So basically, the goal of NATO was protection, provision, and preparation. Protection, provision, and preparation. Again, we're in this time period of the Cold War, United States, Soviet Union, capitalism, democracy versus communism. Okay, so we want to prepare ourselves if something ever happens. If, for example, the Soviet Union would attack the United States, we now have NATO in play where we have this alliance, this agreement that we will protect and support each other if something does happen. Okay, NATO is basically an alliance made of Christian and democratic countries, hence why certain countries are included in NATO and a part of it, and some countries are excluded from NATO. Okay, I'll give you an example. A couple years back, there was a crisis with Ukraine and how there was little conflict of who would take this little island and little territory uh, of Ukraine. I believe it's Crimea. Okay, for example, Ukraine is not a part of NATO because Ukraine was once a property or territory of Russia or the Soviet Union. Okay, so for example, if Ukraine was to go into war, um, Canada or NATO countries does not want to go to war with Russia or with Ukraine because Ukraine is associated with Russia, so we don't want that to happen. So that's why some countries are included, some countries are not included in terms of NATO. Okay, again, it's basically protection, provision, and preparation against the Soviet Union and its aggressiveness during this time period. Okay, again, communism was expanded into Eastern Europe and Asia during this time period, and we wanted to stop that expansion. Okay, so that is NATO. Okay, make sure you know what NATO stands for and what NATO purpose is. Basically, if something ever happens to a country under NATO, other countries will come and aid. Again, this is just a little map of the world. Everything that's highlighted in dark blue are countries or nations or territories that are a part of NATO. Okay, so you can see that a lot of European countries, Canada and the United States are part of NATO. Okay, this is NATO. Okay, it's basically, yeah, NATO. The United States and 11 other countries. Objective, defense in order attack. It helps create an internal security. Again, Canadian public and society had fear at this point. Next, we're going to talk about NORAD. We're going to talk about NORAD. Okay, capital N, capital O, capital R, capital A, capital D, NORAD. This was established in 1958. Okay, 1958. Again, make sure you know what NORAD stands for. NORAD stands for North American Aerospace Defense Command. I'll say that again. North American Aerospace Defense Command. What was NORAD? Well, it was basically an agreement between Canada and our neighbor down south, the United States. Basically, the objective and goal of NORAD was to monitor man-made objects in space from advanced missile technology. That was the goal of NORAD. Okay, it provides warning signal against planes and missiles. Little typo, planes and missiles. Okay, again, we're in this time period of 1950s of fear. Fear of danger, fear of the unknown. Canadian public agreed to this, we were satisfied and we agree in terms of this agreement between Canada and the United States in terms of NORAD. So basically, again, it's agreement between Canada and the United States where it monitors man-made objects in space. As I talked about during the Cold War period, the United States launched a satellite into space. Okay, this was in 1957. They launched a satellite called Sputnik. Sputnik. Okay, this was basically like a satellite in terms of space. It was the first man-made objects in space that the Soviet Union launched. Okay, a year later, in 1958, the United States launched their own man-made object into space as well. Again, like I said, the Cold War, lots of tension. United States, Soviet Union, and eventually expanded into space. So again, now people had feared that they can launch nuclear weapons and warheads from outer space and from out of nowhere. So hence why NORAD came into play. It monitors man-made objects in terms of space, advanced missile technologies. Okay, so people had fear. As a result, we made a defense organization which kind of pleased people. So the significance of NORAD was that, looking back on terms of it, in my viewpoint, it's terms of history of Canada and the relationship with the United States, in terms of American influence, in terms of Canadian society. Again, United States during this time period was a superpower, super nation. Okay, we need the United States as an ally. Okay, we need them as an ally. They're a neighbor. We need them for support if something ever happens here in Canada. As a result of this agreement of NORAD, in my opinion, it allows the United States to control Canada's air forces without approval. What that means is that the United States can now have access to arm air forces of Canada without our permission. Okay, so it's pretty much us here in Canada. We're giving up our sovereignty to the United States. Okay, for better protection of both countries. Okay, that's why in my opinion, I think NORAD is an American influence foreign policy. Okay, foreign policy. Okay, so that's pretty much what NORAD is. Again, North American Aerospace Defense Command. Again, what the class needs to remember is that the goal of NORAD was to monitor man-made objects in space, advanced missiles technology. That was NORAD. Okay? All right. Any questions? Again, this little map of what NORAD kind of does. Again, we have signals and technologies where if something does come towards Canada or United States, we can shoot it down or block it in terms of okay. So that's just a little map of what NORAD does. Okay, we have the Pine Tree radar line, the Make Canada radar line, and the Do radar line. Okay, so again, these signal or technologies that we have in place terms of Canada and United States, in terms of our defense and foreign policy exchange. It monitors unknown objects coming our way or disaster coming our way that we can prepare and block or send it other ways. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up what took place in the 1950s, what happened or what emerged after World War II. Okay, this all took place in the period of the Cold War period. Nothing ever really emerged from the Cold War, but lots of fear, lots of tensions, lots of spread of communism, and trying to stop communism and the fight of communism with capitalism. Okay, so there again, right there, class, again, a bit of world history content emerged into Canadian content. So let's look at assignment 6 right now, okay, class? Assignment number 6. So if you turn into your workbook and look at assignment 6, again, some of us may have finished assignment 6, some of us may have not completed, which is okay. But if you need to do it, this is the time now. Okay, assignment number 6, a pretty short assignment out of 9 simple, easy marks. Question number 1, why did Canada feel it was necessary to create the Bill of Rights? Okay, keyword here is why was it necessary? Okay, so in terms of that, tell me the fear that we had in Canada that emerged from World War II. What happened in Europe that we do not ever want to see happen ever again, especially here in Canada? Okay, why did Canada feel it was necessary to create the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedom? Outline these laws or what these laws were designed to do. Okay, so kind of two-part question. Okay, so tell me why it was necessary to create the Bill of Rights and Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and what did these laws enforce? What was these laws? Again, fundamental and legal rights. Okay, so it's all in your textbook. Okay, quickly jot those down. So again, freedom to rights, freedom to speak, freedom to move around, freedom to vote, no discrimination. Question number 2. What has been the main function of the United Nations? Okay, United Nations. Okay, if you recall what the goal for the League of Nations, pretty much the same thing. Okay, what has been the main function of the United Nations or the UN? Okay, so tell me who is a part of the UN and what was the UN designed to do? What was its goal? What was the purpose, etc. Okay. Question number 3. What does NATO stand for? NATO stand for? And what is its purpose? What is its purpose? Okay. So again, full complete sentences. Again, you can start off by writing NATO stands for. Okay, and tell me what it is. Then you can write NATO's purpose was to ... Okay. Okay, 2 marks. Mark for telling me what NATO stands for, and a mark for telling me what NATO purpose was. Question number 4 talks about NORAD. What does NORAD stand for? NORAD. NORAD. Okay, what does NORAD stand for? And what is its purpose? Again, same thing. Okay, full complete sentences. Don't just tell me what NORAD is, but put it into complete sentences. So NORAD stands for. Tell me what it is. Then you can write the goal. of NORAD was to ... Okay. Again, all this is materials that we just covered today in terms of today's class, today's lesson. Again, all this in terms of the questions, in terms of your workbook, are in your textbook. Okay, there's no surprises. Again, come to class and participate in and listen to me. I just give you a bit of background content, a bit more details, more in-depth in terms of your textbook, or what each of these topics mean. That's all it is. Okay. Again, there's no surprises. Again, I'm not asking for a huge essay. I'm not asking for war and peace. Again, full complete sentences, details, answer what is being asked, and you'll always receive full marks. Okay. If you're not sure if you're on the right track, or if you're not sure if what you're writing is correct, let me know, and I will tell you if you're on the right track or not. Okay. Give me an example of your work material and be like, hey, Jonathan, this an acceptable full mark receiving answer, and I'll tell you yes or no, or what you can improve on. Okay. Remember, I'm here to help. Okay. I'm here to help. Okay. I'm here to make everyone be successful. That is my goal. I want everyone to improve and do well. Okay. So remember, if you need help, just let me know. I'm here to help as well. Okay. So that is right there, class. The conclusion, the grand finale of lesson number 2. Okay, lesson number 2 is now finished. Okay, you can now work on assignment number 6. Okay. Next week we'll start lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is pretty short. It only has 2 lessons. Okay, so we should be able to finish that next week. Okay, so lesson number 3, we'll start off by looking at Quebec separatism. Okay, and what that all means. Okay, we'll be looking at Canada in the 1960s. Okay, Canada 1960s and all the way to the 2000 period. Okay, so we're looking at Quebec separatism. We're looking at what happened in Canada, more particularly about Quebec, the province of Quebec, and what else happened leading up to Canada and our country up to the year of 2000. Okay, so we're almost done the history half. Again, we'll wrap things up all next week. Okay, are there any questions before we go? Sophie, do you have any questions, Sophie? Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Does everything make sense? Hopefully you're still there, Sophie. I hope you can still hear me. You do have control of my smartboard screen, so you can write something out as well. All right. Hopefully Sophie is still there. But other than that, I want to thank Sophie for joining us today in class. I want to thank everyone else listening to PLAR History and Geography here at Wausau, whether you're just tuning in to the radio or walking along Front Street and listening to the speakers. Thank you so much. And I'll see everyone again next week here, 10 a.m. Central